Hey everyone, welcome to Counterpoints. Ryan is back from his fish excursion down south. How you doing, Ryan?
Wonderful. I made it back.
That's
All's
right.
well. It was great.
And you were hanging out with Sagar, and he could probably still smell the
Yes.
smell the weed on you.
Yeah, Saga would have had a great time.
I bet he would.
By the end. Yeah, we'd have totally turned him out.
We have an absolutely packed show today because of breaking news. Last night, Lori Lightfoot has lost in the Chicago mayor's race. It's not going to a runoff. We're going to talk about huge new reporting from The Intercept that just dropped, I believe, at 6 a.m. We're going to talk about student debt. We're going to talk about changes at the World Bank, reparations in San Francisco as they try to take care of that. We're talking about Ron DeSantis. We're talking about Dilbert. We're talking about 702 and the border crisis. And White House reporter Philip Wegman from Real Clear Politics will be with us to talk about new revelations on this administration's approach towards gain-of-function research. Just huge news across the board this week. Ryan, let's start with Ken's story in The Intercept, just dropped. Tell us what Ken reported.
If we can put that tear sheet up there. Basically, I'll just read from the top. Ken reports the U.S. military allocated spending for secret contingency operations pertaining to an Iran war plan, according to a classified Pentagon budget manual listing emergency and special programs reviewed by The Intercept. The contingency plan, codenamed Support Century, was funded in 2018 and 2019, according to the manual, which was produced for the 2019 fiscal year. So Support Century is a budget line which proves that at that time the Pentagon, which would be the Trump administration at the time, had decided that they needed to kind of ramp up their war planning for potential conflict with Iran, which Ken puts in the context of the later move to put Israel in CENTCOM, which Israel used to be in the kind of considered in the European theater of war, and when it was moved into CENTCOM, it became more central to the U.S. war plans around the Middle East. And so right at January 2020, kind of following this, you have Qasem Soleimani get assassinated by the Trump administration, which ratchets up tensions in a way that people worried would lead to a hot, if short, war. It did not. Then after November 2020, there were again tons of reports, and now reporting in hindsight that we were extremely close to a strike on Iran at that point. Now with the Biden administration, this is all continued apace as you have Iran supporting Russia's war against Ukraine. You also have Israel getting increasingly hawkish, if you can believe that, towards Iran. And for the first time, and Ken talks about this in his story, for the first time, you have the United States saying essentially that if Israel does decide to do something offensive against Iran, then that's Israel's call. Where in the past, the U.S. would say, we encourage restraint. So all of these pieces are coming together to suggest that we're much closer to a hot war with Iran than people might realize.
And actually it goes pretty well with something Walter Russell Mead wrote in the Wall Street Journal just this week, where he said also that we are closer to war in the Middle East than most observers probably realize, and that the political establishment here in Washington is at least willing to admit if they don't kind of understand it or talk about it behind closed doors. One question I have is about the transition from the Trump administration to the Biden administration. So as the Biden administration takes over, what did Ken report about how they picked up where the Trump administration left off?
I mean, essentially have kept it moving like that. And that's one of the concerns when it comes to foreign policy and aggressive executive action globally, is that it ratchets only one direction. And now the one exception that I can think of might be the Biden administration's drawdown of the drone war. Like that was ramped up under, begun under Bush, really ramped up under Obama, accelerated under Trump, but then without much discussion and without much media commentary, kind of really rolled back.
Yeah, it's basically not been used.
You hear once in a while about a drone strike in Somalia or somewhere else, but it's every couple months. Whereas, there were drone strikes flying constantly during the Obama and Trump administrations. But otherwise, once you heat up, it just gets moving. And I was thinking about the interesting parallels to kind of the Russian people and Russian politics and the Russian invasion of Ukraine, because as the world watched Russia, massing 100,000 plus troops on the Ukrainian border, and then launch an actual invasion, and then watched the Russian people support that invasion, the world was just stunned. What is going on here? But if you think about the fact that the Russian people had been hit with propaganda, for years about the ne'er-do-wells over in Ukraine, just constant demonization of Ukrainians, that Ukrainians were terrorists, that they were in league with the United States, that they were fueling all kinds of instability in the Donbass, that was actually Ukraine's fault. That they basically want death to Russia because of some of the laws that Ukraine would pass about the Russian language or rights for Russians. And so once it ratcheted up to war, the Russian public was like, we're behind this. And so you could imagine a case where the United States would launch an assault on Iran, and the entire world, what are you doing? Why are you attacking a sovereign country? And you could see the American people support it, and I think because the American people have been fed a lot of the similar propaganda, but all of it also rooted in kernels of truth. None of it's completely untrue.
Right.
It's just how it's spun and whips through the public imagination.
And just my big picture thought on this is it's amazing how accustomed we've become to doing this kind of extreme warmongering behind closed doors, basically, in the last century of American politics, that we're learning about this from Ken's report. And this had never been reported before.
Right.
We really had no idea, let alone, was there public input via congressional action, anything like that? Nope. Nope.
Right, and I would expect Congress to be asking some questions about this now that this is public.
I think so.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Soccer and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.